Welcome, everyone. We got Jared here today, and he's going to share a little bit more about his experience with the Kinetic method and what his results are so far. So welcome to Jared.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to have you on. So before we dive in and ask you a little bit more in-depth questions about the program, let's start first around your lifestyle, because that really sets the base for you to be consistent and commit to something. And so if people see that, then they have the whole holistic picture. So can you run us through age, weight, height, lifestyle, and then we go from there?
Yeah. So I'm 41, just turned 41 a few days ago. So I started the program when I was 40. I've got about 5'11". When I started the program, I was about 242 in there, and kind of come around 250 is about where I capped out at. And then currently sitting at 189 as of this morning. So at this point, after 8 months. Family-wise, I've got a large family, so I have 7 kids, ranging from 1 to 14 years old. So that keeps me fairly busy. And then I work a pretty busy life as well. So I'm a COO of a plastics manufacturing facility. And so we've also been in the midst of acquisitions and kind of growing that up to a $50-60 million business. So that's where the majority of my time goes and is spent.
Beautiful. Wow, 7 kids, man. It's a lot.
It's a bit, yeah.
Yeah, we the group record of kids was 9 or 12. So yeah.
I tapped out, so I'm good at this point.
Good. So if you look back, right, when you were in your 240s to scratching the 250-pound mark, what would you say was the big motivation there, or maybe inspiration for you to pull the trigger and say, now I got to do something, and this has to be a lifelong thing, not just another diet or program?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd tried a few different things, and I was kind of sick of going back and forth. When I was in high school, I used to be a wrestler and stuff, so losing weight was, what you do. Not healthily, but that's kind of what we did. And so was in better shape then. And, really since I got married, right, like a year after I got the girl, then I just kind of let it slide. And so, for me, I've got 5 boys out of the 7. And I want to show them something a little bit better than what I have been. Certainly be able to do more with them. And I think for me, I feel like I know that I could build muscle relatively quickly, and I should be able to be in better shape. And so I'm just being a bad steward of my body, right? Like I'm in charge of this. I'm given this to be able to do something with, and I just squander that. And so, I want to get away from that. I also wanted, the grind of the daily business and everything like that. You're doing so many things, but it's hard to really see like accomplishments. And I needed something in my personal life that actually felt like an accomplishment, right? Like I needed to achieve something for myself outside of all this other stuff that just never ends. It just kind of keeps going, that, I could kind of feel better about and to be able to do something with. So that was a big part of it. One of my kids I've got, we found in the last few years, he's now 5 years old, is autistic. And, there's a lot of uncertainty in that as well, right? Is he, we don't know how he'll develop and what he'll need from us in the future. And I think that was another thing that really made me, you kind of live for your family and you don't really care how it affects your health, I think, as you're a father. And at this stage, like, I don't know how long I need to live for him, right? To be able to kind of help support him and be a part of his life in that. And so, it's a small thing, and I understand none of us wants to just die or anything, but it's not necessarily something we prioritize until we really have a good reason or something that you think is a responsibility that's going to outlive you potentially. And I think that's one of the things that really made me think, all right, I gotta stop this. I gotta change it now and be able to actually carry that through for the rest of my life.
Very beautiful. What I'm really hearing is the leadership, like you leading from the front and showing them, hey, here's how, as a father, I'm not just gonna talk, but I'm actually gonna walk the walk And very few men do that these days, right? You tell the kids, hey, eat some apples and eat some oranges and be healthy. And then you see the father, with the beer and some fried potatoes or potato chips on the couch. I think that's just a hypocrite, and you show different here where you're leading from the front. And I believe that earns a lot of respect, not just from your family, but from other fathers in the outside world, that you're living up. And I'm sure, like, as your kids, like especially the 14-year-olds, like they will say like, yeah, my dad is stronger than yours and fitter than yours. And so everyone now wants their dad as a role model. So in this case, you versus just another dad who's maybe not so fit and they don't look up to him. We often forget that, but I remember when I was at that age, it was exactly like that. It's like, oh, that father is jacked. I want to get to know that father. I want to hang out with him. He's the cool guy around the dads, right?
Yeah, and it's funny. My 14-year-old is my daughter, and she's made some comments about her friends have made comments, and it's like, oh, your friends think that I'm cool now, right? So because they see how much weight I've lost and that actually don't look disgusting as a father, right? So
Absolutely. So you said you tried a few things before, diets, programs. Can you walk us through that?
yeah, mainly, the biggest one I'd done was around keto. And so at some point when I originally hit about that 250, that was like my red flag, because I shouldn't be that big. My dad was really large growing up, right? And he just always had a big belly, and like our whole time, and that we were growing up, and I'm just like, I'm starting to like pass him, and he's actually gotten healthier and physically, in that way he's gotten healthier, and so he's actually gotten really kind of skinnier. And yeah, my mom had made some comments about like, oh, you almost made more than dad used to, and I was like, that's got to stop, right? That's crazy. So I want to cut it back. So I did keto, and that was, for me, like doing something that's more, where you can do more meat and things like that. That seemed all right, and then a lot more fat, of course. So I did that, and I did pretty well on that as a diet. At some point I was decently able to stick into for a while. And I think I did lose at one point like 30 pounds on that. I think I was at like 220 or somewhere around there, maybe just under. And then, but like, yeah, I think I cut off just briefly. And then like, that was one where I couldn't get back on it. Like once I went off of it, like it was weird. It's like, you just haven't been eating anything sweet for that amount of time. And then you start eating it again. And like mentally, I could never switch back to it. And like, I gained most all that back really, really quickly. And that's why I was seeing myself starting to come back to that 250 is why I kind of threw that in. So, and then the other things around it, right, is like I tend to build muscle really fast. Even my sons, they build muscle really quick. They're all actually jacked despite being young kids. And so like I know I can build that really fast. On keto, like I was like kind of scrawnier than I wanted. Like my neck got really skinny, and like I didn't really like, I was lighter, but I didn't really like how I looked, even at the best parts of that. So I mean, I was definitely thinner, and I don't know, but it just wasn't sustainable. Like no one can live like that. I've told you, my wife is a food blogger as well. So she writes, she's purely in like baked goods for the most part. So she actually has a cookbook it's brownies, blondies, and bars. So she just basically, she literally bakes something every day because of the number of kids I have, they're consuming that. So to do keto when your wife literally is baking, 1 to 2 pans of brownies or cookies or whatever else every single day, will never be a sustainable lifestyle to be able to avoid all the time. So, definitely looked for something that allowed me to occasionally be off of that and not have it ruin everything. You're out of ketosis, so it's all over. So, yeah, that was kind of the main one. Everything else was just, just try to limit calories and everything like that. But definitely the macro breakdown wasn't what it should be to kind of get me the look that I wanted. And I wasn't sticking to any of it at the end of the day.
I didn't, so I was muted. I didn't, yeah, I remember, and it makes sense. You talked about it initially where you got like a thin neck, and I always say like like just on this Zoom call, right? I don't know if you have a six pack or if you have a belly, like same for me, nobody knows it, but we see like the jawline, you see the traps and the neck. And so these three elements here, maybe the broader shoulders is really what stands out even when you have a suit. And yeah, I can tell you've got like a really strong, thick neck. And if you have like that thin neck, even though you may be jacked and have a six-pack, it feels like something is missing. Like it doesn't look, I don't know. When you look on images in Google and it's extreme, there's, you know, that model that came out of prison, that the model that was in prison. It's a really famous model now. Yeah, so there's like a before and after with him, and they Photoshop. He has like a really thick neck, and that makes him very masculine. So they made him with a smaller neck, and he looks way different. Like a lot of the power that comes with his persona is just away. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it looked like a golf ball on a tee, you know. Like
yes.
They got this skinny
yeah.
tee. So yeah, and I hate that because again, I do tend to I have always kind of had bigger shoulders and everything in the neck, and like that's where I like it to look. And so like if I lose that, I'm just like, well, that was the thing I had that I actually liked about my body, and now that's gone. So yeah, that always bothered me.
So, you know, you've tried a couple of things with keto and counting calories. What was different this time with the Kinetic method?
You know, the macro breakdown is huge, right? So, you know, you take our blood work and you kind of assign the macros breaking out so that we can kind of see all that. And I think what's good about the program is, you know, you give us a lot of flexibility in that. Of course, you advise the types of food and the things that we should have in that and the best foods for that. And a lot of the videos you kind of shared, like there's the best foods you can do to kind of achieve these macros that are going to get you the furthest. And then there's kind of the next level. These are good. And then these are still hit your macros, but you know, they're not the high quality, right? It's the low quality options, which can be even, you know, cookies and other things, right? At the end of the day. So having the flexibility to, you know, ideally is yes, I'm keeping everything in that good level on all of it and staying with that. But if I do have a day where, you know, I don't want my carbs to be you know, fruit or whatever, and I want to cheat with a cookie, or you know, I think still I do. I think probably on average I've still done like a pizza night every other week throughout the entire program, probably, and that's on average. There's been weeks where it's been more than that because the kids will be begging for it, but and it's been fine. Like I still lost weight through all of that time, especially throughout the beginning. It really wasn't a problem. It didn't set me back. But again, I would manage that to the macros you've assigned, so I wouldn't go way over or way under. You know, the other is like again keto. It's like you feel like, you know, if you miss a day or two, like it's going to go off the rails really fast. It's really easy to correct back on this program. The other is, you know, it's a really high, you know, it's a much higher protein diet than I was used to, I guess, and now I hear that's really, you know, the way you should always be doing it. But I found that a lot easier. I never felt like the foods I was eating wasn't stuff I could eat. I was happy. I'm eating a steak like every other day. I'm cool. Like I'm good with the program where I'm kind of doing that and I'm able to eat things in those ranges. And so the food choices being good. You know, in the beginning, I think I had shared I was like I actually felt like I was eating too much. Where you started me on calories wasn't terrible. It's just, I mean, compared to what I was eating before, it was certainly less. But I mean, the foods I was eating before. I mean, in the evenings, it was like, I mean, I would just eat till I fell asleep. Like, and I just go back and forth between sweet and salty, sweet and salty. So I do a bowl of cereal and then I do nachos to kind of offset that and kind of go back and forth. And so kind of cutting back even to that really, really helped. But keeping the right kind of foods in that and making them things that I'm okay with eating and I'm happy with eating was a big part of it. I think there's a lot around the mindset that is important too, right? So you got the coaches kind of keeping up with us, and I've got Raul who's kind of checking in on me, and so having that accountability gives you the ability to, you know, to not steer off course far, right? Just the guilt of it. I mean, I used to just hit the candy dish on the way out of the office, like every time I went by. I take a couple for the road, right? And just even small things like that. If I have to report it to you, that you know, like the embarrassment of having to put in a handful of Skittles into your macros is just stupid, right? Like you just look like an idiot. So just being able to remove that and just those small things is helpful, right? It's just having somebody to kind of call BS on you when you're just kind of getting off on it. But I mean, it's a sustainable program. It's not like I'm cool eating the foods I'm eating right now all the time, and I'm cool with the fact that if I go off it a little bit, I can overcorrect the next day a little bit, and it's going to be okay. And one day doesn't cost me everything, and we really adjust. So it's taking kind of some of that weight off. It was really helpful. I definitely have a busy lifestyle. I'm here 60 plus hours normally every week. And then there's the family and trying to support that. I mean, I don't have time for a lot of stuff. The workouts were very achievable. That's not, that's not a killer. I still miss some of them just because of the schedule, and yet it didn't like stop it, and I didn't lose muscle. And that's what I kind of find before. If I'm not doing a lot of workouts too, especially with some of these other ones, if you're not doing something to counteract that with the muscle, like you're going to lose all that. And I really didn't ever. And so that all kind of maintained. So yeah, I mean, it's a totally different view of it. And I just see it as sustainable. I think that's really what the difference is.
That's very good. And you're spot on with the workouts. Like that's exactly how we programmed them. And I believe how it should be done for almost everyone versus just, a lot of conventional and mainstream methods out there. You've seen it firsthand. Would you say there was something unexpected as a benefit that you didn't think about before you joined the program, and then as you did it and you start losing weight, you dropped those 50 pounds that you said, something unexpected happened, like unpredictable? It's like, wow, I didn't think this would happen as I change.
Yeah. There's an unpredicted, I don't know, there was an insane amount in terms of benefit. I mean, things that were different in this than like keto, I lost weight probably faster, in honesty, because I was losing a lot of muscle, right? So you're losing muscle, yeah, you can drop a lot more weight a lot quicker. So I will say in the beginning that surprised me is actually, and I know this is not actually the thing you look for on it, but like it went slower, but I had to change my mindset of like, that's good. Like as long as it's consistent, it's good. Because I'm used, like I said, I come from a wrestling background. Like I'm used to losing 10 pounds in a day or in a couple hours before a meet or whatever. So that's the way I always viewed it. And so I'm always like, I can lose a bunch really quickly. Just not sustainable. So getting used to that when I'm hitting like a half pound or even a quarter pound on a lot of days, but I'm doing it every single day. And so that, it was a slower but more consistent pace. And I kind of looked better. So I still thought, I think I'm surprised at how low I can be and still not. I know I still have a ways to go. That actually has surprised me a lot, right? So I think I told you my goal weight was like 190, and even that I was like, that's too scrawny. Like I figured if I hadn't been under 200 in probably 15 years, and so the idea of being at 190, even I was like, I don't even think I want that. And then you set it at 180 partially so we can kind of bulk back up. But yeah, I'm basically at 190, and like, yeah, I can still do a little bit more around the stomach. We can kind of go a little bit lower. So I think being out of it so long, you don't really know what your ideal body actually looked like, right? I think you hear this from a lot of the guys of like when I broke 200, that was a huge milestone for me. And in fact, when I broke 200, I actually aimed for 195 because I knew I'd maybe fluctuate a little bit as I started to hit, diet breaks and things like that. And so I aim for that because I never want to get over 200 again. Basically, I'm like, once I'm under, like I'm never going back unless it's like I'm built like a tank, right? That's the only way I'm going back over 200. And so I kind of hit that, and I've been able to kind of maintain. But yeah, even hitting that, and I'm like, yeah, I could still go further and not. I'm not going to hate the way I look. I'm not going to like look scrawny or anything like that. I can still look decent. That was a really big surprise for me. Benefit wise, I do think it does motivate you, right? Is you're definitely people notice and people notice you a lot more. And so that does come with some different added confidence. And I'm still working on getting my identity to be kind of the new me, right? Is still, I'm a Midwestern boy, okay? I'm from Northwest Indiana near Chicago. Like food's a part of our identity to a point, okay? And more about the quantity than the quality at the end of the day. So breaking from that and kind of getting the identity into like, like I don't have to be a meathead, right? Like I don't have to be like a gym jock necessarily, or kind of have that mentality, but just the idea that it's okay to kind of prioritize health and do that has kind of been a change I'm still trying to work towards, but I do feel that more, and definitely I think the way I react to certain things is very different just because of the physical changes as well. So yeah, that's probably, I wouldn't say it's necessarily unexpected, but it's definitely a good benefit and something I'm really happy with. I think you muted again.
I don't know if that's a new option or not when you're silent for a long time. Either way, I believe, that once you've gone through a certain threshold of weight, not just the small one, but like as you've did right with the 50-pound mark, that your environment is noticing that so strong, and now you get positive but also negative comments, but it's like it forces you to change that identity, because people have seen you so long as this guy, and now you get rewards, but maybe also again some negative comments to the new identity. But like it changed you on such a deep level, and I believe once you make it through that, that's where really you can stick to the new you and just sustain that forever.
Yeah, and I think it's been fun. I actually had a vendor in here this week that he immediately mentioned that, like, oh, have you lost weight? And then he got really uncomfortable for a second because it is such a massive amount of weight loss. He was a little scared that like he doesn't have like cancer or something, like there's not some disease to it or something. Like there's like it's just enough to be like they're a little scared of like, is everything okay? Not that I look like I'm like unhealthy or anything like that, but it's just because they saw me before, it's almost a worry because yeah, they saw me 6 months ago and I didn't look like this. So it'll almost worry people given kind of how much it can be. So it's just kind of funny. They'll get used to me, but
Of course, unusual results will give you unusual feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
One last question for you. Any man watching this who is a little bit skeptical, on the fence, or thinking, should I do it? Maybe not. Maybe I can do it on my own. Who's this guy online? What are your final words of advice to this guy watching?
Yeah, you can do it on your own, right? Like in the end, you can scour the internet, you can try to figure stuff out. Like, I mean, there's plenty of things on the internet. Sure, you could do it on your own. You're not going to. You're just not going to at the end of the day, right? Like I said, I've been over 200 for 15 years, whatever, and I and I got a lot of the guys in the group, right? Like they were former athletes. So some professional athletes that have not been able to get back to where they were when they know what they have been and what they could have been. So, I think a lot of it is putting the pride away and saying, okay, I can't do everything while still doing the other things I'm successful in my life. I can't do another thing as successfully without help. That's okay, right? Again, I run a large manufacturing facility, and I think what I've kind of started to think about is that there's lots of projects we do here that I'm going to pay someone else to do. We could do them internally. I could use my people and we could spend time. It's going to take 5 times as long, but we could get it done. Or I could pay this guy a little bit more and I could do it more effectively. I could definitely do it faster, and I cannot waste resources, and I can still put energy towards other things. And so when you think about that and put that into your own life, and you think about that around your family, around your business, wouldn't you rather invest a little bit in the short term to kind of get that stuff clear? Because like I said, this is a sustainable program. Okay, at some point, you will give me enough tools to where I can walk out of this and I can carry this in the future and not go off the rails. And I feel very confident, extremely confident that that's what I'll be for the remainder of my life. So, putting in that time now and that investment now, just get it done, man. And then again, we talk about this a lot you can be more successful in business. You can do more things in your family life that you couldn't do ahead of time. So if you can go ahead and clear this hurdle, then again, it opens up a lot of things. So I really recommend investing. And again, I'm a Midwestern guy. Like we don't spend money on ourselves and like health stuff, right? We don't do that. It's just not really a thing, right? Like we just think we should be able to kind of deal with our own problems on that kind of stuff. And so being willing to kind of drop the ego and say, all right, in this area I can't, and I just kind of need a plan. I need somebody to kind of walk with me for a little while, and let's do that. I mean, if you were offering something that was a non-invasive procedure that told me in a year I could be to my ideal body and in perfect shape on it and the way that it would want to be, and I'd be able to carry that just by doing things that are simple throughout the rest of the way, not even anything outrageous. Then like people would be lining up for that, as long as it was within a reasonable price range, and this very much is for what you're getting. So, if you could do that in a pill, but I told you, okay, but the waiting line is 12 months. It's going to take you a year to get in. You'd still sign up because in a year that means there's going to be a change. So why not just start that now? Because in a year, like you would look so much different. Again, 6 months, so like night and day. Like I'm very happy with where we're at. So if you do something like that, and you'd be willing to invest, without the work. Like I said, the work's not outrageous on it. I really don't think it is. I think it's, you definitely have to make some changes, and you got to think a little bit differently. You got to prioritize some things, but like, this isn't a hard program. I don't think it's a hard program. Okay. I think there's, depending how fast you want to accelerate it, sure, you can make it harder or easier, but I don't think it's a hard program to do and to stick with. So, why wouldn't you kind of make that investment and just make the change quickly? And then it's going to kind of change your life forever. So yeah, get off the fence and just kind of do something, have somebody help you with the stuff that you're weak at and go from there.
I love the analogy that you gave, or the example that you visually painted out with the waiting line. And let's say it's kind of like you sign up for a Tesla and then they send you an email like, hey, it's going to take you another year till it comes, right? It's like similar here. So you have the opportunity to take control in your hands in this case and build that 6-pack Tesla, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's like if you've been saying for 3 years and you tried different stuff, like, and you don't think that maybe that's not a good course going forward, like, what are you thinking, man? Like, it's probably going to end the same way on it. It's not necessarily you. Again, there's other things that can kind of change that this can help you do. So just clear those hurdles quickly, and long term, I think it'll save you money in the long run, right?
Absolutely. Good. Well, appreciate you taking the time today and sharing with us your experience and your insights, and also the great words of advice here. Thank you for being here, Jared.
Absolutely. Appreciate everything in the program. Thank you, Maura.